where we're giving extreme value, that's where customers are gravitating to. And I don't just mean dropping price. I mean, we had a couple of clients that really did a great job of building sets of their product that just screams value, right? So when you can provide someone with a solution, an anti-aging eye cream, face cream, nighttime cream, day cream, you put that together in a package.
Right.
Maybe you give them a nice little, branded bag with it and a couple of small pieces with it, but it looks like they're getting a lot. And you price that reasonably, that's doing well.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Ground Up. Excited again to have another amazing guest with a crazy track record and a crazy background. And we'll get more into Phil talking about your story here in a second. But before we do it, it's the week of Thanksgiving. How is everything going for you?
Things are going great, just getting ready for the holiday. And also, we've got Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming. So we've got all the clients making sure that we have everything set for the ads that are dropping. And, it's it'll be great. Thursday will be great. Friday, everything falls, goes crazy. So.
Yeah. I tell you, I have vowed, both my wife and I have vowed, that since I left the retail sales environment, that I will have nothing to do with physically going into any store on Black Friday ever again for the rest of my life. I spent so many years inside of these Best Buys and these type of stores working 15, 16 hours on Black Friday. It was a great experience early in my career, something I learned a lot from. But now I asked my wife just yesterday, we were driving to a dinner, and I said, Friday, do you want to go maybe do some shopping? She's like, no. So we avoid it completely. But you're talking about it not from the consumption side, but you actually have quite a few clients you're helping, utilizing, getting the most out of Black Friday, correct?
Yeah, we run connected TV ads starting in October all the way through to the second week in December for brands. So everybody, he constantly wants the dashboards updated, and which is easy to do in this day and age, but they just want constant reassurance of what's happening. And then we run ads. We do have a lot of omni-channel brands, and so we run ads for them, whether they're online or helping them with what they're doing in store, doing the creative things like that. So, but starting on Friday, we're on for the whole weekend through Tuesday. I mean, everybody is. We just start looking at what the data is showing us. The unfortunate thing is you can make some modifications, but if you haven't tested and refined what you're doing by the time Friday comes, all you're really doing is looking at the numbers and maybe making some small modifications. You can't do anything big because it takes it's going to take a few days to get things going. So, we pretty much have things set. Then it's just a function of us, paying attention to the ads, giving feedback to the clients and letting them know that everything's going to be okay.
So I would assume outside of, I would guess the offer changes during that weekend period, that Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the offer might change, but everything else you do is just amping up the intensity during that period, not necessarily the whole structure, right? So what you've, in theory, learned the previous 6 months of what works, what doesn't work, what's the audience looking for, making sure you have the audience targeted and you're putting your message in the right places. That is the effort you go to get you to the Super Bowl. And then it's just about close your eyes and execute, right?
Yeah, it's just about maybe you make some modifications. Like I said, small modifications. You can modify the budget, how much you're spending. If you see that one ad is doing better than the other and you want to move some money around, we do a lot of that. But you're 100% right. The creative is done and it's set. The ads are done and they're set. You can't really change a lot other than making sure that you're putting the right money in the right spots.
Yeah. Now, how big of a deal is that for the clients you work with? How big of a deal is Black Friday in today's landscape for those? Like I said, I had a small window in my career where I was in the retail space, and obviously in the brick and mortar retail space was everything. And these stores put everything behind Black Friday, and And for all of you guys that don't understand and know why we call it Black Friday is because for most of the year, these businesses, these brick and mortars have been operating in a negative, in a deficit, and they use this one weekend, this one single day to get them back in the positive if done correctly. How important is it for the clients you do? And if maybe you could lay out what the landscape of the general client you work with is for this type of approach.
Yeah, we mostly work with consumer product brands, beauty, food, personal care. Those are our strengths, electronics and toys and games. And for us, it really next year starts in right after this because we always regroup and keep a lot of data and talk about it with the client. So we start planning next year right after this. But what everybody is concerned about is we did okay. A lot of brands did okay on Amazon Prime Day, and that's the first Prime Day. I'm talking about July,
Okay.
and that's an indicator of how the rest of the year is going to go.
Mm.
And then October came for the Prime Day, and it was iffy. We had some brands that did really good because they planned well starting last year and they knew what was coming and they had inventory in. But some brands didn't do so well, primarily because prices increased because of tariffs and things like that. And so that's caused a bit of angst. So what everybody's looking for is things have been trending okay, not phenomenal, but okay over last year for most of the brands. Now what they're hoping for is Black Friday this weekend and Cyber Monday, things just break out and they end the year really, really great. Either straight e-commerce brands or omni-channel. Omni-channel, the problem with omni-channel right now is the retail sector is the e-commerce side is outperforming the retail side.
Mm.
What we're doing online to get sales is outperforming what these guys are doing in the stores. And so they're trying to make up for it. And we're very cognizant of it because we do help them in a lot of ways with what they're doing at retail. There's some areas in retail that are doing really, really great and some areas that are struggling.
And I would say, just based off of my own self assessment, I would say that most of the retail stores are probably more on the struggling side. Would you agree with that, Phil? Some are still making it work, but just observing, just looking at the local mall and the foot traffic, the action that's happening in this so busy shopping period, it's to me, this is one of the big reasons why when I speak to people and we talk about AI and we talk about will AI inevitably take over a large sector of the workforce and the people that say no to this, I kind of point to the evolution of this process and moving away from the retail experience to a more convenient cost saving mode, which a lot of times is able to be done on the e-commerce side. So I see most of the retail side of businesses struggling. Is that's similar to what you're experiencing?
Yeah, yeah. In certain categories, food is doing quite well on the
Okay,
retail
makes
side
sense.
and online. Beauty, it really depends. There's some areas in the beauty sector that are doing very well. Anti-aging always does really well.
Explain that to me. So you're saying anti-aging retail facilities would be something where somebody who wants to be able to reduce aging in them, they would go there and get treatment being done, not
Yeah,
buy
no, no,
things,
no, what I'm
right?
talking about is like the category, right? So
Okay.
you have retailers like Ulta, Sephora, uh,
Hmm.
department stores, anywhere where your product is, and then you sort of dive down and look at what category within the category, right within the larger
Yeah,
category,
yeah,
what
yeah. Makes
segment
sense.
is doing well, and where is it doing well. But you have to what customers are looking for right now, where we're giving extreme value, that's where customers are gravitating to. And I don't just mean
Sure.
dropping price. I mean, we had a couple of clients that really did a great job of building sets of their product that just screams value, right?
Okay.
So when you can provide someone with a solution, an anti-aging eye cream, face cream, nighttime cream, day cream, you put that together in a package, maybe
Mm.
you give them a nice little, branded bag with it and a couple of small pieces with it, but it looks like they're getting a lot and you price that reasonably, that's doing well. Where customers so what it tells me is that customers today are very, very hesitant about where they're spending their money, and they're putting their money where they're getting the most value that they can possibly get, more so than they have, in the past. And that really high top end, where you're going after the top 10%, where you've got, an eye serum that's selling for $150 or $200, that's where you're getting a little bit of struggle. You've really got to figure out how to package that with value so that customers say, okay, well, $150 is not so bad if I'm getting these 3 or 4 items.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. When I think of, making a product, making a solution, being a consumer, I think of the two ends, the value and the convenience, right? And I think that's kind of the two different levers that are at your disposal when offering a service or a product, which is what are you getting for the money, but then how easy is. And I think that as consumers, we are leaning significantly heavier to the convenient side of those things. We're making decisions that even we would pay more for when convenient. And I think that's where, like, without you giving me the explanation you just gave me, if I looked at an Ulta or a Sephora, I say their days are absolutely numbered. They have to be. Like, why would anybody go into one of those stores? I mean, why my wife loves to go there, but man, I stay in the parking lot. Why would somebody go there to buy those things when everything they sell is available on a virtual place where you can get it probably for slightly cheaper because the markup's not there and the convenience factor is there? So, I mean, I look at an alternative experience like a Best Buy and I say, if I want to buy a new computer, a new camera, I might go to Best Buy to physically touch, feel, look at the product, but then I'm just going to go buy it online once I know what I want to buy. And that's what I anticipate a lot of the retail experience is you've got to just have an undeniable experience that is going with the value there. And it's hard to beat value when you're going e-commerce versus retail. So you've got to provide the experience side has to be through the roof. I mean, am I accurate there?
Yeah, I think, what people do is there's a lot of showrooming that goes on. There's a lot of people that go to the stores, look for what they want. I think
Yeah.
where Ulta and Sephora and others like that play a role is when you don't know what you want and you want to go and try a couple of different things.
Yes.
But you're right, there's a lot of people that go in and try and then go online and buy it. So that's why I said we're outperforming on e-commerce more so than at the retail side. The other thing is that Ulta and Sephora are doing a lot of events, which is
Mm.
attracting women because, you can go there and get some value out of that. And that's having an impact on sales. Ulta provides services, so does Sephora as far as, beauty and makeup and things like that. But a lot of it is people going to the malls and just, walking around and taking a look and seeing. But you're right, there's a lot of struggle out there. I think the bigger department stores, Kohl's is we all know Kohl's is struggling, right? They've been struggling. They just got a new CEO. He was the interim CEO, and now they just named him as the full CEO. Macy's is struggling, and all these department stores. And the question becomes: are the department stores more at risk than the specialty stores? Because the department stores, they sort of lost their luster, right? So
What would you classify as specialty store, just for my understanding?
Ulta is a specialty store. Sephora is
Okay,
a
gotcha.
specialty
Okay,
store.
so it's a specific
Even
product
Best Buy.
niche.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay, cool.
yeah.
And
But you used to be
like
able
the
to.
other ones are just global. They have what Sephora has, but at a smaller scale. They have almost everything, like a Sears type deal.
Yeah, like Macy's, you walk in
Yeah,
and
right.
you've got all those fragrances, then you've got the beauty counters, then you've got this and that, which is great. But I think that you can't be great at everything. There was a
Mm,
time when the department stores were all people had, and so they went to them. And then now we've got all these specialty stores, but we also have specialty stores that have popped up online. You could consider Amazon to be the department store, and then you've got specialty stores out there online that serve the purpose. And I think with technology the way it is today, you can buy glasses and try them on and see how the frames look online. You can try on your outfits theoretically online, right? You're looking at how that looks on you
right.
before you buy it. So there's some definite experiences online, but definitely e-commerce is rolling stronger because of that convenience fact.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that. I mean, it's something I've actually been putting a lot of focus on inside of my business, which, as somebody who does sales coaching and who's had a lot of success in consulting companies, I found myself being the Macy's of sales consulting. In that being able to serve all clients on paper sounds great, but in reality, it's not as attractive to the client as possible. Now, really, where my niche is, where my Sephora is I've built automotive sales organizations and got a very specific way I do it and a name and a reputation in automotive. And so I've kind of went the department store route with my business. And now I'm coming back to the level of specialization and saying, there's so much business here. Why try to do everything when you can focus on a very, very specific side of the business? So it's interesting because this is kind of a revelation I'm going through as I'm in the process of making that next evolution into my business and evolving what we're doing to take it to the next level. And it's exactly that, is have that area of specialization, that niche, that focus. And through that, you'll be able to expand far better in business, I've found, than that. Now, you've been in business, Phil, for a long time. You've done a lot of sales, coaching, and consulting. You've had successful exits. You are, you know, a model of what I would like my career to become in the future. Do you see a lot of that? People like me making that mistake, getting so broad with their offer and then finding the value in personalizing more to an area?
Yeah, yeah, sure. We did it with Crunch Growth. With when we first started out, we were strictly focused on Amazon sales.
Mm,
And then, we had someone come to us and say, "Can you help us with our website?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're good at this."
right.
And then we expanded out, and then we started doing social, and then we started, and it just got so much. We were going, you can't be everything to everybody. And what we realized about is that, we're very good at advertising. We're very good at connected TV advertising, of anything to do with video, how to tell a story with video, because one of my past businesses was on we launched it on the shopping channels. And what the shopping channels taught us was how to, because that's all they do is storytelling, right? They're just sitting there for 15 minutes with one product, telling a story about the product and getting the viewer engaged. So we learned how to script that, how to do it, how to create the video around it. And so it's the same thing. We did direct response TV, we did traditional TV, and one of the frustrations with traditional TV and DR TV is you're only wasn't trackable. Not like it is today. Connected TV, I know who's watching, when they watched, how they watched, where they watched, and I can retarget those people online. So we love connected TV. We love anything digital because it can be tracked. And so that's really where we focus our efforts on. Can we do SEO? Yeah, we could, but we're not good at it. There's other people out there that are great at it. If we have clients that ask us for it, we push it off to a partner. If we can do Amazon work, I prefer not to. We can do the Amazon advertising. We do that all day long.
Right.
We do advertising on Google, Facebook, Meta. We do programmatic advertising. So that's really where our niche is. So to your point, yeah, we all sort of fall into that trap because we think more is better, but better is better. So
Yes, specialization. And I've always, prior to being, an independent business owner, I've always looked at the process and said, like when I worked for these companies in automotive who sold like 15 different products, I was like, man, when you do everything, you're not great at anything. And that, I mean, that's kind of, it sounds like you went down that road. I've probably went down that road. And now I'm going back to saying this is my bread and butter. And then I've got people on my team who might have ancillary bread and butters, or to your point, partnerships and companies that specialize in, you need a website built. Could I do it? Could my team do it? Sure. But this guy's way better at it. And this is his thing. Let me connect you to him. And through that partnership and relationship, he brings people to me, I bring people to him, and our clients are served significantly better. Double clicking back on what you just mentioned about the availability of data today in the connected TV and advertising side. I know we were kind of talking prior to us hitting the record button. You said one of the big things that's allowing you to do that is AI. Is that the biggest differentiator on there, or is just it's gotten better outside of the AI?
Well, we've been using programmatic advertising and connected TV for many years, and programmatic advertising has always been better targeting, right? The problem with it has always been the barrier to entry because it was so costly. You needed a minimum spend of, $25,000 a month to get on, to really make a difference with it. But the costs have come down so much. But what AI has done is added this layer of intent. So now you're not only looking at your persona of who your target customer is, but now you're out there looking for intent and where those people have the best, where you have the best chance of converting. So that's where AI has really enhanced it. So it's just the returns have been tremendous. And then we focus on connected TV, but then connected TV, you're retargeting people online. Because the way it works is you've targeted a segment, they see the spot, they click on the spot, they are engaged with the spot. Now I know who those people are because again, they're connected. So now, well, the system knows, right? So then the system is going to follow those people online. So now you've seen this spot on your iPad, your phone, your TV, wherever you are when you're working out, and all of a sudden now you're starting to see ads for that same product online. So it just all works together, and AI is enhancing that side of it as well. What we're doing online as far as retargeting from connected TV to online. So it's just one giant ecosystem, but AI has really enhanced the intent side of it, finding people with the highest intent to buy.
Makes sense. What do you see when you take over a potential client or project? What do you see the biggest mistake somebody making around connected TV, and where are they making where are they winning the most, and where are they making the biggest mistakes?
Well, to be honest, we haven't really taken anybody over who's already been doing connected
You're
TV.
introducing the idea
We're
to them.
introducing them to the idea because, like I said, the costs have come down so much, and I don't think people truly understand it. It's very targetable. It's even targetable regionally. I can target all the way down to a zip code. And so we do have clients that we run connected TV ads for regionally. One state, 10 states, 5 states, 3 states, wherever they want to do. Some will test it. And we can get people on now for less than $10,000 a month. And when you think about people that are spending 20,000 or 25,000, or brands that are spending $25,000 a month on like Meta ads, peel off $10,000, I'll get you a far better return than what you're getting on Meta or Google, even for that matter.
It's interesting. We went down the route of in our business, for my real estate business, we went down the route of going through Meta, and we were spending about $100 a day. We were able to get the message in front of the right audience. Ultimately, we were marketing to real estate wholesalers, which tend to live there. We never explored LinkedIn. We never explored anything outside of Meta. We were getting a decent amount of people coming in. Now, we probably, if we did that process again, we would modify our offer to kind of eliminate some of the people that were really early stage. The problem we had, Phil, is that a lot of people love the idea of being a real estate wholesaler until they actually have to do it. And there's a zero barrier of entry to do that. There's no license or thing. There's really no money that's involved in you getting there. So when somebody sees an ad that says, we'll provide you a team of trained virtual assistants that will guarantee you X amount of deals in X period of time, people are like, cool. And then we let them know it's like, you got to spend this amount of money with us over this period of time, but we guarantee this result. They're like, well, I'm not there yet. So kind of having a little bit lower funnel approach would be how we would modify it. But we saw a ton of value. Now, for a business like that, or a business like mine, a coaching, a consultant, would connected TV have the same value as Meta, or in this industry, better to be there, and in other industries with more products and services that are more high end, better to be in connected TV?
I mean, I wouldn't do it for coaching
Okay.
because it's not the right audience.
Okay. Makes sense.
I would do more direct outreach on LinkedIn, maybe automation, that type of stuff. It works really well for consumer products because that's who's watching. So, like again, beauty, food, electronics, toys, personal care, household items, that type of stuff works. Real estate could work. We have industrial clients, believe it or not, that we run TV ads for. It's not one of our fortes, it's not one of our targets, but they came to us about, 15 years ago, not maybe not 15, early on, maybe 14 years ago when we first started out, asking us to help them just run ads to get drivers for their trucks. And we were doing that online, and it's just the relationship has just blossomed that they wanted to try TV for their business, and it's working regionally. That we do
Mm,
that in only in 2 states, and it works extremely well for them. So there's a lot of categories where it works, but I would say coaching, I'm very specific about the coaching I do because I'm a growth coach. People come to me because they want to grow their startup. Maybe they're
right.
doing $500,000 and they get stuck, or $1 million and they get stuck. That's my specialty. I'm not a mindset coach. I'm not any of that. But I wouldn't do TV ads, but I do a lot of direct outreach on LinkedIn, and I get very good results with it.
Yeah.
Cold outreach is kind of tough. We have run ads in the past on Meta and places like that, but it's doesn't really give us the, you know
We did it so that we could learn it, so that we could test it, so that when we had clients that were considering it, we had already kind of gone through those things. I would never want to advise somebody on a process that I didn't do myself and
Yeah,
understand myself. We got a couple of customers from it. We made more money than we spent on it. So it was not a bad process. We just weren't probably set up to really run long term in a campaign like that. Now, as you just said, with Crunch Growth, your growth, you said you work with startups and helping them get growth. Is there a certain type of person you look for? I asked this question because I interviewed a guy last week and his name was Dave, and Dave specialized in doing this big internal campaign where he first said, I'm going to talk to 30 founders in 30 days. And he just went on a campaign just to have conversations. He had no product, he had no offer, he had no solution. He was leaving his career in that journey of finding his next thing. And he's like, I'm just going to talk to 30 startup founders. And that quickly evolved into 100 founders in 100 days. And he ended up speaking now to almost over 200 founders. And there's common things he found. And he's a guy with a sales background. And so he found a couple of really common things that he felt like a lot of founders ultimately needed help with. And now he is trying to build a business around that. When a potential customer comes to you who is a founder who's looking for growth, is there a primary place they come to you to help for? Is there a place that you really don't specialize in helping?
no, I can help any founder in any kind of channel that's, as long as they're moving along. What I don't do is I don't do pre-revenue founders because they don't, we've done groups of those, and I do it through philmasiello.com. Crunch Growth is the agency, and sometimes they overlap, but
Sure.
mostly it's where I'm where my specialty lies is I have a TV show, and I've spoken to over 200 founders. That's my focus is on
Okay.
speaking to business founders who have scaled their business to understand the roadblocks, what they hit, what they didn't, and so I've been involved in, incubators and accelerators. So I understand founders and I understand what they go through. And I will tell you that every single founder, they'll get, depending on the channel of business, they'll get from zero to say 500,000, and then they get stuck. And they need somebody to get them from 500,000, or help them get from 500,000 to 1 million. And then when they get to 1 million, they get stuck, and they need someone to go from 1 million to 2 million or 5 million. Even guys, one guy came to us, he went from 0 to 20 million very quickly, and he got stuck at 20 million for about 3 years. He kept saying it was a marketing and advertising problem, and it wasn't. Turns out that it was him that stuck the business, because when you get to a certain amount of sales revenue and you get to a certain stage, you have to start acting like the CEO. You can't be running marketing and running operations and running the warehouse and running this. You can't be doing that. And so, because it just stops everybody. So that's my sweet spot, is getting people
So
over those.
I want to double click on that because I've got a client that jumps out at me. And Jason, if you're watching this, you'll know me speaking to you right here. He's got a very successful business, very profitable. He's the head sales guy. He's the guy who does all the presentations, and he's incredibly talented at that. He's very good. And why they've grown so much is because of that. But then now dealing with Jason is a headache because he's a chicken with his head cut off. He is running around trying to solve every problem. And I've told him, Jason, your business has to be where you become the executive. You need to now be able to hire a sales leader, build a process, build a team, and every once in a while, Jason comes in to close the big deal. And even if there's a process, steps by steps, that is done that filters out certain people until Jason needs to get involved, how do you convince? Because I've been with this guy for a year, and he's still fighting that fight, Phil. How do you convince them you are halting your progress by you doing what you do best?
Yeah, I'll give you an example, and I just spoke about it gradually. This company came to us. Founder went from 0 to 20 million, and they're in the food business, and they have a brand, and then they also sell wholesale. And we knew of them, and they came to us because he went from 0 to 20 very quickly, like 3 or 4 years, and then he was stuck at 20 for 3 years. He came to us because he said, I've been through 3 agencies, everybody stinks. And as soon as somebody says they've been through 3 agencies in 2 years, there's always a bigger problem, a deeper
Yeah,
problem.
sure.
So he said, I have a marketing and advertising, nobody can get it right, yada, yada. So I said, listen, and he said, I hired this guy, and he told me who it was. He said, and this guy is supposed to be a powerhouse of selling, and he can't get the job done. And I knew the guy, that he hired, and of him. I didn't know him personally, but I knew of him. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's a A++ player. I mean, this guy could sell anything, and he knew everybody in the industry. And I'm thinking there's something else wrong. So I said, hey, listen, before we get into this business as a client agency relationship, how would you feel about doing a 2-day offsite with Phil as a coach to get to the bottom of this and find out what's really the problem? Because I don't think it's marketing and advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to it. And we did a 2-day offsite. About 2 hours in, I asked the A++ player, I said, hey, why do you think you can't get things done? He said, oh, I can tell you exactly why. He said, I've been here a year. He said, and I am not managing the meetings to the prospect schedule. I'm managing to his schedule, the CEO schedule, because he wants to be on every single call. And I said, and he said, and he's running marketing, advertising, operations. He's running everything. How I can't get my job done. So it took us literally the entire next day and the entirety of that day and the next day to get him to at least say, look, try it for 6 months, right? This is what the structure is. You're going to talk to Phil every month. We're going to come to your office, however you want to do it. And we're going to manage this thing. And I'm going to show you how to be a CEO and not be the guy who feels like he has to be on every call. You're paying this guy big money. You're going to have to trust that he knows what to do. Right. And so it took really me sitting with the guy once a month and spending hours with him on that first call to get him to convince him to do this. Right. But as soon as he let the handcuffs off, this guy started plowing and started booking business. And he would bring the CEO in for the close, and that made the CEO feel good. But all of a sudden, things started moving. And then he was like, okay, well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And every once in a while, he's just like an alcoholic. He sort of falls off the wagon and wants to get back into,
Yeah,
because he feels like he's losing control.
right.
And then, we sort of have to bring him back to reality. But that was almost 3 years ago. It was 2.5 years ago. And the A++ player has almost doubled their sales. And so that was the convincing factor was, look at the progress you made in 2.5 years. Look at the time you wasted in the 3 years where you were going back and forth trying to be a control freak. You have to stop. You have to start thinking like a CEO. And I always use Jordan Belfort, if you know who he is from,
Of course. Wolf
yeah,
of Wall Street. Yeah.
yeah. And I always use that because even in the movie, when you see what he was doing, granted, it was a whole big scam and all that, but he took all those guys that were just non-salespeople and he taught them how to sell like he sold. And then he stepped back, right? That's what he did. And then he started, doing whatever he was doing with the, hookers and the drugs and things like
Yeah.
that. But the point was he took his entire team and taught them the exact script on what to do. So that's exactly what I would do is get the guy to say, look, this is what you're good at. Now you have to transfer that knowledge. So what's the script? What's the script that you use? Can't teach it to anybody. Yes, you can. Because if you can't teach it to anybody, then you don't know it. And the minute you say that to an entrepreneur that you can't do something, it's like telling Michael Jordan he can't win. Forget it. All bets are off. That guy's going to teach you that he can do it.
It's funny because my team building style, Phil, and I'm sure this is going to continue to evolve as I evolve, is I have always been a growth focused person inside of organizations. So I like to hire almost all my salespeople entry level because I am a coach. Like I am a sales coach. I like to bring in people at entry level, develop them to every step of the way. And because of that, in my little over 12 years of leading teams, I've got over 12 executives in executive level roles throughout the industries that I've been in before. And almost everybody I've always hired has started off as an entry level SDR level type of talent. I also now know the value of go find that A++ player, plug them in, and man, the amount of headaches you have to remove in that sense. And one of the other things that it frees is you can hire that A++ player who maybe knows the things that you don't know. So you, as the person, doesn't need to go learn that process. So in this scenario, what you would advise him is, because he's got two different ways he can go. I think I could teach him because he's got a very, very talented team. He's got probably 100 plus employees. All are sales minded people and individuals. He runs an outsourced BDC in the automotive industry. And I've told him, I've been to his business. They have a lot of young, hungry, motivated people. And I said, you give me 3 or 4 of these guys, I could have them within 3 months be your sales staff to ultimately take all this off your plate. Would you suggest doing that with young, hungry, talented people and eventually transition him up? Or would you say, go find that A++ player that literally can plug into your spot? Or would you say maybe it's time for you to bring in an executive and you just go down to be the vice president of sales at your company you own?
Well, that's something that happens a lot when private equity firms take over a company and they see
Right.
that, the CEO is trying to do everything and they push him down and get a real CEO in there. But he has to decide what he wants to be. The first thing you want to do is figure out, what does he want to be? Does he want to be the CEO or does he just want to be the head sales guy? Because if he wants to be the head sales guy, then yes, hire a CEO. If you want to be the CEO and you want to be the guy leading this business, then you have to be able to transfer that knowledge. So you're saying that you're the best, right? I'm the best salesperson for this job or for this industry. Okay, great. Then I want you to build the training program. You're going to script out exactly what people should do to do it the way that you do it. Because if you're saying that you're the best, that's what you have to do. And if you can't do it, then you're not the best. You don't know it well enough. Then you've just been lucky. So that's the way I would approach it. If I got into it and had to actually start training people, then I'm no longer a coach. I mean, as far as the line people, I'm training the CEO. Then you're no longer a coach or a consultant, and then everything is going to fall on you to all of a sudden be the one. If things don't go well, you're the one who's in the wrong. So you've got to make sure that he has a business, he wants things done the way that he's doing them. Okay, the only way to get them done the way he's doing them is to get him to be able to train the people who are doing it, right? And there's a million ways to do that today. It's not like you have to sit in a room every day with 100 people and start training them. I mean, he can get somebody in there to take what he does and video it. He could do all kinds of things. You can script it out. So that would be my approach, would be to get him to lay his process out and have somebody come and refine it and then put a
I
team
mean, I
together.
could do that for him right now. It's just a question of the removal of the thumb from the process, in a sense, is the biggest challenge.
Well, that's always the way that you approach it with guys. You say, look, it's up to you how you want to do this. If you want to be the guy who has to do everything, then you're not going to be able to scale much more. Or you're going to wind up having an unhappy life. But if you want to operate a business and turn this business that's doing whatever it's doing, 50 million, 20 million, 30 million, into 100 million or 150 million, you have to get off of it. This is the first lesson I learned from failure, because my first business, I was a control freak and the business was sound, but I was terrible. I was a terrible leader. I was a terrible manager of process. I was a terrible transfer of knowledge. And the business, 3 years, I sold it because I just couldn't take it anymore. Everybody who worked for me was miserable. I was a tyrant. I felt like I had to have all the answers. I had to be involved in every decision. I had to be involved in every discussion. And it cost me dearly. And I had to spend 2 years of self-reflection to figure out what I had to do, what I did wrong. And then, and I've put it past me, but that was the first lesson I learned, and I never repeated it again.
It's awesome. So one last thing, because I know we're kind of coming up tight on time. I'm interested in this. One of the things that caught my attention of you was the fact that you are doing a TV show and that you interview, like you said, a lot of startups. What was your idea to start that, and kind of what has it evolved into for you?
Yeah. My idea to start it was simple. I mentor at a couple of universities in the entrepreneurship program. And these young entrepreneurs coming up, they're not students anymore. They're people that they've graduated and and the school offers these entrepreneurial programs, and they come and they run their ideas by mentors. And then, we set up funding things and things like that. And so I would see these young entrepreneurs come in with this slanted idea of entrepreneurship, which they get from YouTube. Because, we all know that what happens online is just everybody's doing great, everybody's scaling, everybody's fantastic. Oh, I went into this meeting and I raised $10 million. I'm great. And we
Right.
know that it's all BS.
Yeah.
And so, but these guys would believe it. And I say, that's not really the way it's going to happen. You're going to put together a 10-page pitch deck, but you're going to pitch your idea to 100 people before you get somebody who's going to write any kind of check. And you have to have an MVP. You've got to have all these things. And so I got a little frustrated with it because they weren't seeing reality. So I said, I want to show them reality. So I started bringing on people like, Vern Harnish, who wrote Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up, and he's interviewed thousands of guys. I had him on the show. This guy, Joe Rothley, who founded Greenies, the dog and cat product that's all over the place, been around for 20 years. He exited that to Mars, did quite well. I've had people on Sfoglini Pasta, guys that have founded big brands that, Art of Shave, you know, and that come on and we talk about it, and we talk about what they did, how they did it. Everybody, 100% of entrepreneurs who started out have pivoted, right? Your business plan that you start out with is not the business plan that you end up with. How did you get your MVP up there? How did you test? What were the obstacles you hit? Every one of them's got the near death story of, we were running out of money and we were almost at death's door. And so these are the sort of the stories I want people to hear about entrepreneurship, because almost everybody's had those same problems. And again, those are the things I focus on when I help somebody, is overcoming those obstacles, because everybody gets them. And because there's so much, I think, garbage viewpoints out there for people that never have really done it, never have really started a business, never have really failed at starting a business, they tend to give people this idea that it's all going to be glorious. And it's not, and it's going to be hard, but you've got to overcome, you've got to persevere. Steve Jobs said the biggest character that a person has to have is the ability to persevere, because you're gonna continually face problems. And so that was really the driving force for why I did the show. And I like to have people on that have built businesses, not only, consumer brands, but, SaaS products and AI products and things like that. And just tell their story about what they did, how they did it. And then I interject with some of my own stories, because I tell people all the time, I founded 10 businesses and 4 were successful, 6 weren't. But I'm okay with that, because when you think about a great baseball player, these guys bat 330 and they're Hall of Famers. So I'm batting 400.
Oh, look at you, Ted Williams over here. Phil, yeah, look, one of the things I really like is I like Alex Hormozy, and he's grown on me. I don't know if you ever watch any of his stuff or listen to him or even know who he is. And
I know.
he does the hustle culture thing, which I think is all bullshit. Like, I don't like the hustle culture thing. But what he does talk about is he talks about failures. He talks a lot about failures, and he's normalizing the fact that you're going to fail. And he also says, look, yes, I am a work hard, but not everybody can do this. Not everybody has to do this. This is not what you have to do. But I like the fact that he's willing to talk about his failures and normalizing that, because I do believe that there's more to be learned in failures than there is in success. And I love that you said that I've had 10 and I failed at 6, because I guarantee you what you learned in those failures helped you be successful in the 4 that you were successful at.
I will tell you this, and I spoke about this last week at a meeting with entrepreneurs. Every day I fail at something, every day. And at the end of every day, while I'm walking my dogs, because I'm by myself walking my dogs, and I always think about what I failed at that day and why it failed and what happened and what I'm going to do tomorrow to fix that. Now, we all have small failures every day, right? Businesses are bigger failures, right? I've invested money in things that I shouldn't have done, gotten involved in businesses that were out of my knowledge base, and that's what got me into trouble. I've done it multiple times because I'm an idiot, but it happens. And so I do it in different ways. I never make the same mistake twice, but I make new ones. And so I'm okay with that. I learn from it. I move on. I'm not going to die. They didn't kill me. And I'm not homeless. I've got a great family. I've got a great house. What's going to happen if I try something and it doesn't work out? I'm not going to die, and it's okay. I'm going to learn something from it. My wife may be mad at me, but it's
Yeah.
going to be okay.
Yeah, look, I know, and this is you lose track of this. I do lose track of this at times. I know I could only be able to do what I'm doing because I have the wife that I have, and my wife has believed in me more than I believed in myself in most of my career, and that she said, "Go chase this, go chase this. I know you can do it," and I know that that's a luxury not every man has, not every person has, to have somebody standing behind you saying, "I don't care if you lose all of your income, we'll figure it out," and it's a will figure it out, and I truly believe that. But I also, I mean, I'm not joking, Phil, when I said I had this realization yesterday, and I recorded a video on it as well, which is, if you're not willing to fail, you're also not willing to reach your fullest potential. And that's the thing that a lot of people have to realize is there is a comfort zone. There is a world where you can get that middle manager job, make a decent salary. But if you're not willing to bet on yourself, and betting is not a sure thing, and if you're not willing to bet on yourself and bet on the chance of winning big, but also losing big, the bigger the win, the bigger the lose has to be. And if you want to be great, you have to be willing to lose big. And the level of risk you have on the gamble you make on yourself determines the potential of the size of the win. And I think that's something that people don't factor in, is that in order to maximize your win, you have to cover the risk side as well.
It's funny you should say that. The reason that I only do that I coach entrepreneurs who actually have a business that's going and not the pre-revenue ones is because if you've already started, okay, I don't want to talk about overcoming your fear. I don't want to talk about your mindset. I don't want to talk about any of that. I want to talk about real growth. That's what I focus on. Your mindset, you've already taken the step. You've already started the business. You've already put all your fear aside because you're there. So now we can get beyond all this normal coach stuff of let's make sure that, you're not afraid of taking the next step. You've already taken the step. So you're not afraid. You got your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, whatever it is, we're going to move forward and we're going to figure out how to scale this business. That's what I like to focus on. I'm not a mindset coach. I'm not somebody who's going to sit there and tell you we have to overcome the fear. We're going to do a fire walk, and it's beyond that. Once you started and you have revenue, you're beyond that. You've taken the step. Now you have to make it work. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. Like I say to everybody, you're not going to die. Okay. You might lose some income. You'll be able to get a job if this fails. You'll be able to sleep on your parents' couch if it fails. You're going to be okay. Let's focus on growth.
Yeah, that's the thing I had to struggle with. I struggled with it for about 2 years, Phil. It's kind of like my last statement before I give you yours. I struggled with it for 2 years. And I knew I wanted to leave the corporate world for 2 years before I did it. And I knew I had a plan to do it. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do outside of the corporate world when I bet on myself. But every time I attempted to do it, the company would give me a raise. They'd give me an extra title. They'd give me this extra responsibility. They'd give me this enticing project for me to work on, and I would stay. But eventually, I had to realize, and my dad said to me, he's like, Matt, you're X amount. Oh, I don't remember how old I was at this point. Like, you're 35 years old at this point. If you don't do it now, you won't do it. And just stop talking about it. And it's fine. We'll love you the same. You will be no less of value to us. But if you truly want to do it now, or just get rid of the idea, because this is your window. I had just ended an employment agreement with this one company. They decided to move on from my employment. I was interviewing with other companies, even though I told me I never would do it. And he's like, go chase it. You've got money in the bank. You've got an idea. Go execute. And if not, you can always go get that job that you're interviewing for again. Like, that's not going to be an issue. And when I finally came to terms with that, it was such a freeing thing. Once again, I had money in the bank. I had a wife who wasn't going to leave me because of this decision. So, I probably take those things for granted at times, but I had to ultimately bet on myself. And in this 3 years that I've been doing this, I've changed my business multiple times to kind of twist, move, adjust here. And we've not found the perfect format, but we're having great time doing it. I've got a fantastic team. We're growing every single month, and I wouldn't change anything from it. Phil, final words.
Oh, it's do we have time for a quick story?
You got as much time as you want.
Well, so I started this business. It was retail stores in Washington, D.C. There were retail food stores. And I decided one day, this internet thing, this was back in the beginning of e-commerce. I said, this internet thing, I wonder if we could sell food. So we set up a website and we started selling food. And that, for some reason, got more attention than the stores. And this supermarket chain wanted to acquire us because at the beginning, nobody knew anything about websites. They wanted to buy us because they wanted the website to turn it into their home shopping. And so part of the deal was, okay, we're going to buy this. We're going to take your stores. We're going to do the whole thing. But, this guy who's the CEO of it, he's got to come and down to North Carolina, and he's got to come down once a week and a couple of days a week, and he's got to implement this website. I'm like, okay. And so, they gave me a package. This is how it's going to happen. And, this is what you're going to do. And, I got into this corporate life on this level that I had never been in before, right? It was a multi-billion-dollar supermarket chain, private jets. They had, all kinds of stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I realized at that point in time how intoxicating it can be for some people to say, oh, wow, I can stay with this company. I could make $500,000 a year and, keep growing. And I thought to myself, as I walked around, I was there for a couple of years because I was doing this. I thought to myself, this is just a terrible existence for me, because there was a little entrepreneurial group down in North Carolina that I started going to. And I saw these guys doing different things and they were starting these companies. Even though they weren't making the kind of money that we were making over there, I was like, this is far more exciting to me. I got to get out of here.
Right.
To your point, like it was I just didn't like the structure. I'm sure I was a terrible employee. I'm sure they were happy when I just did the 2-year earnout and left because it was just so restrictive. And I felt like they used to have these Monday morning meetings and we used to go in and they would talk about sales in stores. But there was this line, which were transactions, unique transactions, and because they were card marketers, so they could track it. And I kept saying, but sales are up, but your transactions are going down. So it's just inflation. You're losing customers. And nobody wanted to hear it. They were just so focused on nobody wanted to look deeper than the numbers that they were used to looking at.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about these transactions and whether they were gaining or losing customers or, it just drove me insane. So I wasn't a good employee, and I admit it. I drove them crazy.
9 out of 10 entrepreneurs that I talk to, and I bet if you ask the question enough, you would get the same outcome. Not only were the best entrepreneurs not good in the workforce, like employees, but they also weren't good in the school system either. Like I was talking to my mom the other day. I sent her a clip that I saw about a Harvard study about, education system and everything else. But man, I was always that guy that would kind of be viewed as one of the more intelligent people in my classes, but my grades never reflected that. I was a C-level student. I couldn't be bothered to do all of the bullshit they needed me or wanted me to do in that process. But you had me focus on something I enjoyed, like sports or something like that, man. I knew every statistic about every baseball player in the MLB because I love that. And that intense energy and focus to something I enjoy doing translated so well to entrepreneurship, to building, to growing. But so often successful entrepreneurs find themselves struggling in the education system. They don't have the best grades. They actually translate well out. Now, obviously, I would say the the peak of the peak entrepreneurs, probably really highly educated, but the average day-to-day entrepreneur didn't do well in that. So Phil, did you do well in school?
I was really smart, but my grades did not reflect. I
Exactly.
didn't do
Same
really
story, right?
good until I didn't do really good until I went to graduate school,
Mm.
and only because in graduate school I really enjoyed like finance and I enjoyed marketing and I
Yeah.
enjoyed
You found what
we
you
we
like to
had an
do.
we had an entrepreneurship class
Yeah.
and uh and that's why I went to that particular school. But that was when I was really good in school. But other than that, I'm not good. It's got to do with structure. Every entrepreneur wants one thing, and they want freedom. If you ask them, it's not about the money. It's not about anything but freedom. And it's not the freedom to work whenever I want and all that, because every entrepreneur works hard. It's the freedom to make my own decisions and to fail
Yeah.
if I
Die
fail,
on
it's
your own
on me.
sword. Yeah.
Not because some guy down the hall made a decision to do something and that's causing problems. That then I didn't fail. I failed, but not on my own terms.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I'll say this one last thing as well. And so often, I think one of the common mistakes is, man, I'm an entrepreneur. I can make my own schedule. I'm going to work less, and I have people that will come work for me, and they're like, "Oh, great, I get to work with an entrepreneur. He doesn't have a set schedule." And they're like, "Oh, Matt, you work a lot." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, it's like it's my baby. Like it's my business. Of course, I work so much more on my business than I ever did for some other person's business." And
sure.
so you definitely aren't going to work less as an entrepreneur. It's just you have the ability to, if you want to go play golf on Thursday morning, like I like to do most weeks, I can, but then I end up working on Saturday and I work about 3 or 4 hours on Sunday. And I was at this desk until 9:30 last night working on a project for a prospective client. Like you end up working more, but it's because it's what you enjoy doing. And I look forward to Monday mornings. Every Monday morning, I get meet with my leaders in my teams who oversee my different departments and divisions in my company. And I am so amped up, ready to do that. I'm not that guy who like hates Monday mornings. No, I'm ready to go. I've had Saturday and Sunday for me to spend time with family. I'm ready to get back into it. Let's go.
Yeah, Sundays to me are God's day to sit and watch football.
It's it.
So,
Exactly.
God wanted me to watch football all day, and that's what I do. But while I'm doing it, I sit there with my laptop getting ready for the week because I like to figure out what the plan is for the week and make sure that I'm on top of things. And then I look at like results for people so that when we get to the office on Monday mornings, we start talking about what's happening and what we're going to do for the week, especially this time of year. But yeah, no, I'm the same way as you. I enjoy what I do. I'm not at all miserable when I don't wake up every day and go, oh God, I got to work today. I think it's I don't even think about it. I just love it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, you and I could probably talk for hours about this. Hopefully, you and I will have an opportunity to talk in a couple of weeks as well more. Obviously, look, the biggest reason why I do this podcast is to increase my professional network with impressive people. And I'm glad to hopefully be able to add you into that professional network and say I've got
yeah, it'd be great.
another friend here that I can bend their ear and get their advice from. Any final words from you, Phil, to our audience?
If you're an entrepreneur, go out there and don't be afraid. Get started. If you haven't started yet, just take the leap, take the step. You're not going to die. Everything's going to be okay. But you got to follow your heart. If that's what you want to do, go and do it. And if you're already doing it and you're having trouble scaling, well, reach out. I'll give you some help.
Yeah. So we'll put all of Phil's information in the bio so you guys have a way to get in contact with him. You can catch us on obviously all of the social medias out there and here on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share it, get this in as many people's faces as possible so we can kind of create additional conversations. Phil, appreciate your time today. Talk soon,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks. Thank
Bye.
you.